Actually, it's the role of the old folks, the old gray hairs, to come tell you how bad things were. And I appreciate the chance to do that while I still have even some gray ones up there to do. But they were pretty bad. I mean, to read about them is to sort of get a perspective on how bad they were. But you don't realize quite how bad Clemson was in 1963 when I first came here. I guess I'm a liberal at heart because I grew up under the influence of New Orleans. And in New Orleans, it's just a different world. There wasn't a lot of hate in New Orleans in the 50s and the 60s. There was a lot of fun. There still is a lot of fun, but there's a lot of hate there. So when I got to Clemson, and I literally held their offer in my pocket until they showed me how they could bring Harvey Gantt. And Dean Hunter knew that, and he said, you just keep that offer in your pocket because I think you're going to like the way we did it. And I did, and I came. It's still here. Where do you go to church? How many of you have been asked just cold blank by a dumb stranger, where do you go to church? What difference does it make to them? Okay, but it was worse than that. As a young assistant professor, I was sort of attuned to the environment trying to make my way, and I was very deeply advised by a colleague that I should find my way to the Men's Methodist Church. Now, I'd gone through epistemology and Gödel's theorems, and there was contradiction running around in my head like crazy at that age. And this guy is telling me that I should go to the Men's Methodist Church because that's where President Edwards gave Bible class, that's where Wilson, the business manager, gave Bible class, and that was the power structure of this university. And I went home and I thought, that's a hell of a reason to go to church. Okay? Now, I managed a black band when I was in graduate school, or when I was in undergraduate school, because I was white, and I could book their calls, I could book their gigs with a white owner. And so I knew a little bit about the black community and how wonderful it is to participate in it. But I didn't find that at Clemson. In fact, the first thing I heard about was Meyer Breger's black tea. I mean, it was the talk of the town that a woman had invited a black person to a tea. What in the world have I gotten myself in for? They may have integrated Harvey Gantt into this situation, but they had a ways to go. And Charmaine found the fellowship being just a half a dozen people that met down at the Y that had graduated from meeting in someone's home. That's how much advancement they had made when we found them. That was in 1963. And it was home indeed. So we moved along, and we were sort of a colony of liberal religion in this wilderness of where do you go to church? Well, we drove a stake in the sand, and it's right over there, and it's growing much bigger. And you know what it says? There are big second coming letters up on that thing that says, we are here to stay. And I mean it. Liberal religion is here to stay in South Carolina. And to an extent that Charmaine and all the rest of us had anything to do with it, I'm very proud of that. I see her plants every Sunday. Okay? We are here to stay. Several people shoved all the chips up. When we went to build this place, we couldn't get along. So members of this fellowship, 3 in particular, put it all on the line. Because, as I was told by Jimmy Whitlock, you can't foreclose on the church. So, when we're asked to put it on the line, I get a little snicker when I see people say, well, that's a lot to ask. Okay? Now, the other thing, it's a wonderful place to raise your kids. Unfortunately, we teach them all too well. We teach them to make choices. We teach them that religion is not something somebody hands to you, it's something that you work out for yourself. Have you ever noticed how very few of our religious graduates become Unitarians? We're doing an awfully good job at teaching them. But when you lose your kids, guess what you have? 3 wonderful grandchildren. Will they stay? No. But it will be their choice, not mine, or not some fool that tells them, where do you go to church? So, the thing that really endears me about this, circle dinners are a good way to see this. But there's a mark that I've always used. If you're in an informal conversation with someone, there's a hierarchy there. An awful lot of those are about people. There's a hierarchy above that that says a lot of those things are about, a lot of those conversations about things. But better yet, the best conversation is when one talks about ideas. And if you go to circle dinner, sit and listen. How many times are people sitting there just talking about people like they didn't have anything better in the world to think about? How many times are people sitting there talking about things, what you can do about them, so forth? And how many often? It's normally most of the conversation at UU Church or dinners that you talk about ideas. So in the abstract, that's what UUFC means to me. It's a beacon in this horrible world of conservative religion, and it's a thing that's always dealing with ideas.